5 o'clock on the dot this Thursday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. We're getting closer for changes to come in the temperature. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Election 2024, the Democratic National Convention wraps up tonight. Here's Jacqueline Lee with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz formally accepting the VP nomination on night 3 last night.
The governor slamming the Republican agenda
that serves nobody except the richest and the most extreme amongst us.
Labeling it with the word that's become his signature.
Is it weird? Absolutely.
The state championship winning coach ending with a football reference.
Get in the trenches and do the blocking and tackling.
The convention wraps up tonight after presidential nominee Kamala Harris takes the stage.
Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. struggles to gain momentum on the national stage. Now it appears he's ready to call it quits. Kennedy's team teasing a speech where he will address the nation tomorrow from Phoenix, not far from a Trump event. Now today, the former president visits the U.S.-Mexico border in Cochise County, Arizona. J.D. Vance delivers remarks on border security and immigration in Georgia and Kansas. And here in Tennessee, a study ranks the volunteer state as having the 6th highest rate of childhood obesity in the nation. Nutritionist for Robertson County Schools, Patsy Gregory, telling Channel 4 she's revamped the lunch menu to try to help change that.
What we're running up against, we have to make it healthy, but you still got to get the kids to eat it. So that's why we're doing things like the chicken parm.
Chicken parm. The result is the lunches are more costly to prepare and they take longer. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Here's Derry Albinger.
Stocks held steady midweek. The Dow closed up 56 points. The S&P rose 24 and the Nasdaq closed up 102 points. The minutes from the Fed's latest meeting are out and most members agree that they likely will cut their benchmark interest rate when they meet in September. Chair Jerome Powell could have more to say about it in his speech at the Fed's annual conference in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, later this week. Some big retailers releasing very different earnings. Targets beat expectations as the discount retailer reversed a year-long sales slump by focusing on grocery aisle deals and affordable but stylish clothing. It wasn't so good for Macy's, the department store chain, reporting another quarterly sales decline and says sales for the fiscal year will be weaker than expected. Ford is shifting its electric vehicle strategy with an emphasis on 2 lower-cost pickups. It's also scrapping plans for an electric SUV.
All right, Dow futures up 41, S&P up 2, Nasdaq up 12. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Information fueled.
Opinion driven. This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
5:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. August 22nd, Thursday. I'll go ahead and say it, Friday Eve. It has been a really long week. Listening to all the nonsense that's going on in Chicago. Do you know what I did the other day? I think I can do this at 5 o'clock in the morning.
All right,
I was
Brother
talking
Dan.
about Chicago.
Yeah.
But I was talking about this off the air with someone. Do you know what I did by accident? I don't know what's going on with me, if I'm like having weird brain problems because of all of the lack of sleep. I put a T after Chicago. And I didn't do it on purpose. It's actually kind of funny.
Actually, it pretty much sums it up.
It does, doesn't it, Ken? It's a perfect description.
That's way to go, Brother Dan.
There's a lot of that, on the streets of Chicago. There's a lot of crap talking inside the arena there in Chicago as the Democrats are, doing what they're doing this week, and it's kind of a crappy situation actually for the Democrats because that big jobs number that came out yesterday, they downgraded about 818,000 jobs. Just we're not there.
Oops.
Oops. Imagine that. It's like, where did the jobs go? And so I'm going to start with that because I think there's so much that I have today. At 6:35, EJ and Tony is going to be joining us to talk about this. But, this comes at a very not a good time for the Democrats and for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, specifically Kamala Harris. Because now when you look at their revised numbers of the 818,000 jobs that have basically vanished, now the problem for Kamala Harris is, number one, it looks like you were cheating. It looks like you were padding the numbers. It looks like you were, lying to the American people about your jobs numbers. So that's number one. Number two, there is the fact that with the downgraded number, the 818,000 jobs that were literally Joe Biden, he was saying that they were created, but they never were. That now, aside from the whole lying aspect of it, now their job numbers look even worse. So, yeah, this does come at a very inconvenient time for the Democrats. Oddly enough, I'm going to admit that I haven't seen the entire DNC, but I'm reasonably certain that didn't make it to the stage when the likes of Oprah Winfrey and others were speaking.
Things like that don't affect the likes of Oprah Winfrey.
Boy, they sure don't, do they? Well, you know what the thing is? This really does impact one of the big talking points for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, because their whole big thing has always been, forget about the cost of things. Forget about inflation. Everybody's working. Look at our great jobs numbers. Well, now when you look at the jobs numbers, they don't look nearly as good as when Donald Trump was in office, and we'll explain. The U.S. economy, here's what happened in case you're not entirely certain what we're talking about. The jobs numbers came out a while ago, and they looked better than they actually were. And now they have revised that number. The U.S. economy added 818,000 fewer jobs from April 2023 through March of this year than were originally reported. The Biden administration lied to you. The revised total adds to evidence that the job market has been steadily slowing. The downgraded estimate follows a jobs report for July that was much worse than expected. The unemployment rate rose for the fourth straight month. That is 4 straight months. The unemployment rate has been rising. The current unemployment rate is at 4.3%. Anyone want to know what the inflation rate was for Donald Trump before COVID? 3.5%. Now, part of what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of the usual suspects try to take Donald Trump's unemployment rate overall over the 4 years and try to say that was his unemployment rate. Those people are being disingenuous. You've got to be fair. And the last 2 years of Donald Trump's administration, COVID hit and we lost a ton of jobs. And that was not Donald Trump's fault. That was China's fault. That was Dr. Anthony Fauci's fault. So here's the thing. You have to compare, apples to apples and oranges to oranges, right? So Donald Trump's first 2 years when he was in office, his unemployment rate was at, what was it? Trump was at 3.5%. Joe Biden, 4.3%. So Donald Trump had a much better unemployment rate than Joe Biden did. So the Labor Department and Biden padded the numbers because they knew that they were trying to hit Trump's unemployment numbers, and they couldn't do it. So what did they do? They padded the numbers. And again, this drops right at the time of the DNC. Donald Trump, as you can imagine, he was all over this.
And it really isn't a revision. It's a total lie. Total lie. There's never been any revision like this. They wanted it to come out after the election, but somehow it got leaked. It got leaked. Government leaks too.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Almost 1 million jobs just evaporated. So it does seem to me like they were trying to lie about the jobs numbers to make themselves look better than they are. And they got caught. Now, we've seen the Biden administration do this before, many times, as a matter of fact. They tried to obfuscate the inflation numbers. They try to obfuscate the number of illegal aliens coming into our country. They try to obfuscate the crime rate. Another one. I mean, they're very consistent. Because remember what they're doing with the crime numbers. All across the mainstream media, you're going to see the crime numbers. They're going to say, well, the crime numbers, those Republicans, they're lying about the crime numbers. Crime isn't going through the roof. Look at these numbers. And as I have explained to you many times now, the Biden administration changed the way the numbers are reported. And it was so convoluted. It was so confusing. It was so just, they were unable to report the numbers in a reasonable way because they made it so clunky that a lot of the bigger cities said, we can't. This system that Biden has put in place, it's like an albatross. We can't work with this. And so you had a lot of these folks that just stopped, these big cities, these blue cities, these crime-ridden blue cities, they literally stopped reporting the numbers. That's why the crime numbers look lower than they are. It's not that the crime isn't happening, it's that the crime isn't being reported because the Biden administration purposely made it more difficult for those very numbers to be reported. So it's a little trick that they play. You can downright lie about the numbers at the southern border, whatever. We all know what's going on. And now it turns out they were also lying about the numbers that Joe Biden supposedly created. Now, to make this look even worse, the other thing that Joe Biden has been doing, and I know that you know this, the other thing that Joe Biden has been doing, he's been running around talking about all of the jobs that he created in his first year. Those were jobs that were coming back. Bounce back jobs. COVID was reopening. COVID was going away and the economy was reopening, I should say. And so as the economy was reopening, as the world was beginning to come alive again, jobs bounced back. That's what happened. Joe Biden didn't create those jobs any more than he created 818,000 other jobs in the last year. No, that's not what happened. So the Biden administration and Kamala Harris, basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to lie their way into the hearts and minds of the American people. It's clear that's what they're trying to do. And Donald Trump and others are not allowing them to get away with it. I've got more audio from Donald Trump as he was talking about this and a whole lot of other things straight ahead. It is 5:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. Thank you very much. Partly cloudy today, a high of 87 right now, 60 degrees at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So obviously talking about the jobs adjustment, 818,000, almost 1 million jobs basically never existed. And Donald Trump is not buying that this was just an adjustment. The former president saying, and I agree with him, that either the Biden administration, they were lying about the jobs numbers to manipulate this election, or they are horribly, terribly incompetent. And I don't know which it is. I have a feeling, I have a guess that they're both incompetent and they lie, or they're incompetent at looking at this data, but they're really good at lying. And I don't know which is worse. Now, part of their issue, the Democrats, is that they, again, are trying to make themselves look good with a lower unemployment rate by trying to manipulate the data. That's what they're trying to do, and they got caught. This is more from Donald Trump.
The Harris-Biden administration has been caught fraudulently manipulating job statistics to hide the true extent of the economic ruin that they've inflicted on America. The new data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that the administration padded the numbers with an extra, listen to this one, 818,000 jobs that don't exist. So they said they existed, and they never did exist. They built them up so that they could say what a wonderful job they're doing. No, we've never had numbers like this.
All right. So, again, remember, one of the things that Biden and Harris have been trying to do is convince you that despite the fact that you are paying more for everything, that's okay because the job market is doing great. Well, as it stands now, Donald Trump, again, has a better jobs number than Joe Biden. And that is a big problem for Kamala Harris, because that means that when Trump was president, his average inflation rate beat Joe Biden's average yearly inflation rate. For Joe Biden, the inflation rate was 5.7, has been 5.7% yearly. And Donald Trump's average yearly inflation rate was 1.9%. When Donald Trump left office and Joe Biden took the oath of office, inflation rate was at 1.4%. So now you have the unemployment rate, where Donald Trump's first 2 years, the unemployment rate was a lot better than Joe Biden's. And certainly, and Joe Biden's overall, and certainly when you factor in the 818,000 jobs that never existed that Joe Biden said that he created, this is going to make it look even worse. And so, yeah, it does sound like Joe Biden lied. Now Biden has this stigma of trying to pad the employment numbers. Biden's Secretary of Commerce, a woman by the name of Gina Raimondo, was on CNN, I think this was, and she was asked about all of this.
When you hear that, do you potentially think that this new numbers could be a liability for this campaign?
No. When I hear that, first of all, I don't believe it, because I've never heard Donald Trump say anything truthful.
It is, though, from the Bureau of Labor.
I'm not familiar with that.
Wow. Is she not familiar with the Bureau of Labor Statistics? But I love how she tries to say that Donald Trump is lying. This literally came from the Biden administration. So right now, as the DNC is going on, you have Donald Trump, as I just laid out. He's got better unemployment numbers in his first 2 years pre-COVID than Joe Biden's overall 4 years or 3.5 years as far as unemployment numbers go. And Donald Trump's inflation rate is a lot better than Joe Biden's as well. So any way you look at it, and then again, you've got the DNC going on, and somebody dropped this, by the way, during the DNC. I think that's part of what I find very interesting about all of this, is that somebody did drop this during the DNC. I don't know if it was leaked, and I'll have to look this up, if this was leaked or if this was part of an official announcement. This is what Trump says about all of this. He says that this was a leak, and this was definitely a patriot.
They don't exist. They thought they could do it sometime after, we have an election coming up very quickly, but they wanted this to come out after November 5th, when it wouldn't have meant so much, but it came out a little early, so there's a patriot in there someplace, right?
Yeah, perhaps maybe it is a mole in there. I don't know, a pro-Donald Trump mole. But again, I love the Secretary of Commerce trying to blame Donald Trump and that he is lying.
When you hear that, do you potentially think that this new numbers could be a liability for this campaign?
No, when I hear that, first of all, I don't believe it because I've never heard Donald Trump say anything truthful.
It is, though, from the Bureau of Labor.
I'm not familiar with that.
So I don't know. The Biden administration and Kamala Harris, they're going to be flailing. You know, because Harris, I think tonight is when she's supposed to give her big speech, right? So is she going to have to, erase the part about where they created all of these jobs? Because the elephant in the room is going to be that 818,000 jobs were literally made up by this administration. It is 5:22. On Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7, Ken Weaver, what's coming up in the news?
Well, while the Democrats are celebrating in Chicago, the Republican ticket keeps pounding away on the campaign trail. We've got something from former President Trump on that. And then here in Nashville, people are speaking out on new measures to get drivers to slow down. Talking about speed cushions. We'll tell you about it at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com. 529, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I can't wait to hear about these speed cushions from Ken Weaver coming up in the news.
Yeah, how about that, Brother Dan Mandis? Speed Cushions. Sounds like a great name for a rock and roll band.
It sounds more like a punk band myself.
Thrash metal.
There you go. We'll compromise on thrash metal.
Cushions.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I'm actually anxiously awaiting this newscast because I've actually never heard of a speed cushion. Have you?
I have driven over them. And
what are they?
I did not know what they were. They are parts of the asphalt that have been raised by rubber. They've put rubber on the asphalt.
They're like speed bumps?
Like speed bumps, yes. Only these are speed cushions. Whereas speed bumps, the traditional kind, they can take the front end of your car off.
Got it. Okay. Well, we'll get more information from Ken Weaver on the news next on WTN.
.5:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Temperatures going to be changing. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Election 2024, as the Democrats celebrate in Chicago, the Republican ticket keeps pounding away at their policies on the campaign trail.
Donald Trump holding his first outdoor event since the attempt on his life in Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much, everybody.
The former president speaking to supporters from behind bulletproof glass, surrounded by counter snipers.
He was taking shots at your president.
Trump carped about former President Obama after he delivered a takedown at the DNC.
And so was Michelle. I try and be nice to people, you know? But it's a little tough when they get personal.
Trump also discussed national security.
A lot of editing there, Andrew Dimbert. Multiple sources telling ABC News Robert Kennedy Jr. plans to abandon his presidential campaign and endorse Trump as early as this week. And as for the Democrats,
we got 76 days. That's nothing. There'll be time to sleep when you're dead.
That's Tim Walz formally accepting the party's vice presidential nomination. Tonight, the current vice president and presidential nominee wraps it all up. And right now in Middle Tennessee, Nashvillians speaking out on Channel 4 on these new measures to get drivers to slow down. We're talking about speed cushions and radar signs.
The normal route to go to Waffle House and Cracker Barrel, you have to take different streets instead of just taking the annex. And it's just... now I got to actually go the speed limit.
Oh, I like them. And it makes people that are having to get out of these drives that have to back out or pull out, the traffic's not going by near as fast. It makes it easier to get out of your drive.
Well, Channel 4 says NDOT claims these speed cushions, which are raised by rubber on the asphalt, they led to a 31% decrease in speed where they were installed, and 19% speed decrease where speed radar signs were put up, telling you how fast you're going. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
.37, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time for the Gang of Three Amigos. Hello, Johnny B.
Hello, Dan Mandis.
Ken Weaver's here. Hello, Ken.
Good morning, boys. Yes.
I'm Dan, so I'm fascinated by, just very quickly, the speed cushion thing.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Brother Dan?
So, forgive me, but what are they going to do? They're going to put speed cushions around where?
Yeah, well, they put them up in neighborhoods where they have determined that speeding is a danger to the public.
Right.
And these are designed to get drivers to slow down because you don't want to drive fast over them. It may not be good for your car.
Right. Yeah, they can damage your suspension.
Well, yeah.
The shock absorbers and such.
Well, I'm not sure if these speed cushions can do that. I don't know for sure. But according to Nashville Department of Transportation data, these speed cushions have reduced speeding by 31% where they have been installed. And where these radar signs have been installed, they've seen a 19% reduction in speed.
Do those radar things make you guys slow down? They do me.
I like to see if they work, so I speed up. And they work.
You know what they ought to do if they want to like slow down Nashvillians driving? Just keep allowing the potholes out there. That'll slow us down real quick.
By the way, NDOT says they have taken care of more than 100 potholes since January.
That's it?
I think more than that.
I was going to say, that sounds a little off.
A safe number is 100.
That sounds way off.
I want to say 400 total. Let me see here.
I would think it would be like in the thousands because there's like a lot of potholes in this town.
Yeah, maybe thousands. Let's see. How many potholes has NDOT fixed? Let's see here.
Now, I want to make sure that we're differentiating between the potholes
25,000.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. So, well, it's definitely more than 100.
But I want to make sure that we are differentiating between the potholes on the roads and the jackholes in the state legislature. I'm not talking about any Republicans. Of course, I'm talking about,
So the 6 Democrats.
The 6 Democrats. There's 6 Democrats I'd like to take care of in the...
Speaking of which, weren't some of those supposed to speak last night in Chicago?
Justin Jones? Was Justin Jones supposed to be out there?
I know. I think the one who talks like a preacher down in Memphis.
Justin Pearson.
Pearson. Justin Pearson. Was he supposed to be out there in Chicago?
He's supposed to be in the Windy City.
Did they cut him for time?
I don't know.
They wouldn't do that to him.
I don't know. I mean, I don't see him... I don't see him on local media today, so maybe that's tonight.
All right, so I want to play a piece of audio from Dana Bash. Now, I don't understand, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. How is this woman employed as a journalist? So, strange piece of audio, Dana Bash, and what she is basically, her opinion is that Kamala Harris is trying to appeal to the low testosterone men of America. Listen to this.
But they are doing so in trying to put forward male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan and the kind of players that came out at the RNC, or might want to listen to that, but also, in addition, understand that it's okay in 2024 to be a man comfortable in his own skin who supports a woman. And that's something that they really are trying to work on with male voters beyond the base.
What in the world?
Soy boys.
Where is this woman from?
Dana Bash? She's from CNN.
No, but I mean,
I'm just talking about what a bunch of insane comments.
So, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean,
non-testosterone-laden men.
So basically,
you're talking about men without a pair?
And well, they may have them. They're just in a jar somewhere. Totally kidding. No, what I'm saying, it sounds to me like what she's saying is that, like, real men wouldn't support Kamala Harris? I mean, listen, I'm all for Donald Trump, But it sounds like what she's trying to say.
Well, I think what she's trying to say is that just because you like to shoot guns, you don't like women.
Exactly. It's almost like the toxic masculinity side is Donald Trump, and the soy boy side is Kamala Harris.
And the Me Too movement has died down, so now she's dancing around it.
I don't understand that take. It just sounds bizarre.
It's stupid.
It is stupid.
How do these people keep their jobs?
Non-testosterone-laden men.
Should we play that one more time to see if it makes any more sense the second time?
I'm going to look it up.
All right.
But they are doing so in trying to put forward male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy who...
The gun-toting kind of guy.
Yeah, gun-toters.
Those Hank Jr. types.
Yeah.
Well, and the dumb thing is, like Tim Walz, I mean, I'm not saying anything good about him. It's just a fact that he's actually a really good marksman.
Yeah.
Like he, whenever they would do like the shooting competitions in Congress.
Well, at least he's good at something.
Yes, there's that. Allowing crime to go up and raising prices. That's exactly right.
And a lot of Democratic men have guns there, Dana.
That's exactly right. It's like, how?
What a moron.
Who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan and the kind of players that came out at the RNC.
There was nothing wrong with what Hulk Hogan did.
No.
And by the way, who was that rapper that was on there yesterday? Or the day one?
That was Little John.
Little John.
Yeah, his big thing is he goes, yeah.
Give me Kid Rock any day.
I'll take Kid Rock and Hulk Hogan any day of the week.
Exactly.
Any day of the week. So I'm trying to just wrap you know what? I'm sort of stupefied because I don't know how to respond to something that doesn't really make a lot of sense. And you know what the funny thing is? She's had like a year to prepare for she's had a long time to prepare for the DNC, and this is the take she has.
Or might want to listen to that, but also, in addition, understand that it's okay in 2024 to be a man comfortable in his own skin who supports a woman.
Nobody is even saying that.
If a friend of mine said, "I'm supporting Kamala Harris," I would not question his masculinity.
Right.
I would question his ability to examine issues of the day.
Yeah, his critical thinking.
His critical thinking, his economic acumen. You know what I mean?
That's a good word, Brother Dan.
Yeah, it is.
Acumen.
I know.
I'm going to use that.
You know why I was able to use that word?
Because it's in front of you?
Because I've had my Space Cowboy coffee this morning at spacecowboycoffee.com.
There you go.
People were laughing yesterday at my ability to just weave in, Space Cowboy Coffee comments just at a moment's notice. But yeah, I mean, has anybody come out and said, wusses for Harris? Has anybody said that? No, nobody's questioning the manhood of anybody who will vote for Kamala Harris.
Well, I'm sorry. I guess I have. I have said that privately.
Have you?
Wusses for Harris, yeah.
Wusses for Harris?
Because that's about who I think's supporting her.
By the way, I'm hearing from my friends in the state legislature. I was kidding when I said the a-holes in the state legislature. Potholes versus a-holes.
Yeah.
I was talking about the Democrats. We always say there are, Johnny?
6 of them.
Ken, 6 of them? Yeah, I wouldn't say that about our Republicans. No. Maybe some of them. But not by and large, the Republicans.
When's this DNC? This DNC wraps up tonight, right?
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Kamala's going to come out tonight.
It's her big night, man. Boy, this is going to be electrifying.
Wonder what rapper they're going to run out there tonight.
How much you guys watching this? Like I go to bed at 5, so I mean I haven't seen any of it. I watch as much as I can in the morning, but
actually it's not going to be a rapper. It's going to be Beyonce.
Oh well.
I bet you Beyonce shows up there tonight.
Oh, I bet she does.
Hey, can somebody Google for me real quick? Where is Taylor Swift? Is Taylor Swift on tour right now?
Stand by.
I think she still is.
Because somebody said, because I was talking to E.J. Haas yesterday, and she said that there might be a big musical artist tonight. And somebody said, "Oh, it's going to be Taylor Swift." She's on tour.
Yeah, I think it's Beyonce.
Now, if she happens to be on tour in like Milwaukee, we're screwed. Because, she's just, that is like a couple hour drives, maybe, whatever it is, to Chicago.
I thought she was overseas right now.
I think she is too. She was in London. London was calling a while back. So, there you go.
The line was busy.
Yeah, I don't know where she's at, Brother Dan. Internet doesn't know where she's at.
Uh-oh. That has me worried.
She may be there.
So, yeah.
I'll just shake it off.
Can you imagine if Taylor Swift comes out and she endorses at the DNC? Because, she's all about surprises.
I think it'd be funny if Kanye West stormed the stage and pushed her down, if she did.
Yeah, that actually would be funny. All right, Johnny, what do you have for this?
Let's see.
I'm feverishly...
Well, Dan...
You know what? So this is a peek into my world.
All right, let's go to you now, Johnny.
Hold on. Let me see if I can do this.
Okay.
Oprah Winfrey is trending.
She is a former talk show host.
I know. Did you see what happened last night during the RNC?
The RNC?
Yeah. I'm sorry, the DNC. Did you see what happened at the DNC?
No.
Where Oprah Winfrey, I'm just not even going to be able to find the audio, and it pisses me off. She was talking about J.D. Vance and the whole thing about the childless cat ladies.
Of course.
As she is saying that, I tweeted this out. Why don't I go to my Twitter feed, man? Just Jesus. As she is saying that, CNN cuts to a woman who looks like there's no other way to say it. She looks like a childless cat lady.
Yeah, she does.
And you know what? Can I just be honest? It's actually really sad because here's the audio. This is Oprah Winfrey, and she's talking about the childless cat ladies.
We just try to do the best we can to save them. And if the place happens to belong to a childless cat lady.
And so they cut to a woman who is, I'm just going to describe her. She's rather large, and I'm not body shaming. It's just a fact. She was rather large. The 70s called. They want their hairstyles back.
Oh, yeah, that's the truth.
And boy, did she have a lot of makeup caked on. Ooh. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Now, you make your own judgments on it, but and so some people are saying that CNN was kind of brutal because they cut to somebody that looked like a childless cat lady right when, and I feel bad for the lady. I'm just going to tell you, I feel bad for her. Because she doesn't deserve this.
No.
I mean, she's a Democrat.
No, CNN is the one who's pointing out who the childless cat lady is.
Why? I mean, I'm kind of curious, like, they know what Oprah's going to say.
Yeah, was it staged?
So was that staged? And it's like, okay, let's find a childless cat lady in the audience.
You look the part.
There's one. Man. If I was going to be really mean, I would say, there's a lot of them in the DNC this week, the childless cat ladies. But I'm not going to say that. But they found one that looks the part. And I do feel bad for her because, again, people are mocking her online.
That's awful.
That is awful.
It is.
People shouldn't be doing
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Man, it makes you look small.
I mean, it's not her fault that CNN singled her out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, why would they do that? Well, you know why? Because Democrats are bullies. There's no doubt about it. Democrats are bullies. And they've been bullying Donald Trump. Coming back after the news at 6, I'm going to play a montage of all of the nasty, terrible things that these bullies have been saying about Donald Trump. And Donald Trump had a reaction that I thought was really good yesterday. It was in, I believe, North Carolina, when he asked the question, after watching all of this bullying for the last 3 or 4 days at the DNC, he's got a question for the Trump supporters out there. I'm going to ask the question of the Super Talk audience. And so that is all coming up after the news at 6 right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Gentlemen, anything else? We got 30 seconds. If not, I'm going to play the news sounder.
Well, we do have a gentleman that, everybody's into these smart cars and these driverless cars.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one gentleman from in San Francisco, and he lives adjacent to a parking lot full of driverless Waymo cars.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and he's a big fan. He loves them.
Okay.
But for the past few weeks, he was assaulted by the sounds of the car horns. He said that he couldn't figure out where it was coming from. He looked down, and he said it was these Waymo cars. Said, sure enough, these smart cars had become confused, and they all started honking at each other all hours of the day and night.
The cars are honking at each other?
Yes, on their own.
Oh, no.
And so, and his neighbor said, Russell Povsky, says that I'm cranky today. Well, no wonder. He can't sleep because of these cars honking at each other. So they're trying to, now the Waymo people say they have identified the problem, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yes.
And they say they're working on a solution now.
Ah, very good.
Got the best people on it.
Yeah. Smart cars. Not so smart.
No, not so smart at all. All right, Ken Weaver, what's coming up in the news?
Well, the Democratic nominee for president will formally accept that at tonight's Democratic National Convention. But you got to hear the Republican ticket, man. They've been pounding away on the campaign trail all week. We've got more from that at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, very good. Thank you, Ken, at 5:53 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. By the way, the childless cat ladies are checking in on the Super Text line, and one of them says, 9976, says, I am a childless cat lady, and I am voting for Donald Trump. God bless you, ma'am. It is 5:54 on WTN. 5:57, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Okay, coming up. While we still try to wrap our heads around Dana Bash and what the hell she was talking about last night, maybe I'll replay that audio in the 6 o'clock hour. Maybe if we hear it a third time, we'll understand it. But don't worry, I won't play till the end of the hour. But I've got all the relevant audio from last night at the DNC, who said what, including Tim Walz. All of that and a whole lot more straight ahead. It's Nashville's Morning News on WTN.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Humidity is going to start ramping up a little bit today before we start feeling more like summer. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Election 2024, Kamala Harris formally accepts the presidential nomination at the Democratic National Convention tonight. Last night was her running mate Tim Walz's turn in the spotlight.
We're all here tonight for one beautiful, simple reason. We love this country.
Meanwhile, the Republican ticket keeps pounding away on the campaign trail.
Standing behind bulletproof glass, Donald Trump held his first outdoor rally since the attempt on his life last month. The main focus of his remarks, national security. And Trump said his vice president, Kamala Harris, would have been the last person in the room with President Biden before the chaotic U.S. pullout from Afghanistan.
She had the final say, and she was all for it.
Trump promised this if he's reelected commander-in-chief.
On day one, I will get critical race theory and transgender insanity the hell out of our U.S. armed forces.
Meanwhile, independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. appears ready to call it quits. Kennedy's team teasing a speech where he will address the nation on Friday from Phoenix, Arizona, not far from a Trump event. Here in Middle Tennessee, this week marks 3 years since the deadliest flood to hit Middle Tennessee on record. These Waverly residents telling Channel 4.
It's just been quite a journey, and it's not over yet.
We lost a lot that day, but we have a lot to be thankful for, too.
Yeah, 20 people were killed. Channel 4 says there are still crumbling buildings and buildings overcome by weeds, cars halfway upstairs. Officials say it could be another 4 to 5 years before Waverly is fully back to normal. The flood prompted a researcher at Oak Ridge National Lab to develop a new model to predict flooding faster by forecasting exactly how much rain is coming. Market Numbers Report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Online at beaconcm.com. Here's Dave Packer.
With a lot of investors believing the Fed is now just a couple of weeks away from its first interest rate cut in years, the minutes from the Fed's last meeting are backing them up. They show most Fed officials think rate cuts in September are appropriate as long as inflation keeps cooling. After new data Wednesday showed more than 800,000 fewer jobs were added in recent months than had been previously announced, Wall Street will be looking closely at this morning's weekly initial jobless claims numbers from the Labor Department. Analysts expecting 232,000 first-time unemployment insurance claims. Target and Macy's going in opposite directions. Target sales were up around 3% in the last quarter, but Macy's saw quarterly sales drop nearly 4%. Macy's, though, still posting a $150 million profit. And Ford is scrapping an all-electric 3-row SUV. Instead, Ford is focusing on new EV pickup trucks and an electric commercial van.
All right, Dow futures up 45, S&P up 7, NASDAQ up 42. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Information fueled, opinion driven. This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
6:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I think Donald Trump is getting good and pissed off. He has spent the last 3 or 4 nights watching the Democrats just take shot after shot after shot after shot. Now, you'll recall that Donald Trump is the one that is supposed to be the big bully. Donald Trump is supposed to be the one that is supposed to be the threat to democracy. And Donald Trump is the one that is supposed to be going after the American people to eliminate their freedoms. And each and every one of those things that I just mentioned actually refers far more to the Democrats than to Donald Trump. And so I want to play you a few audio bites. This is the constant insulting of Donald Trump over the last couple of nights at the DNC.
This weird obsession with crowd sizes.
That is, of course, Barack Obama talking about how Donald Trump has a weird obsession with crowd size. And, of course, that is taken way out of context. Kathy Hochul, this is what she said.
He never had to worry about child care costs or groceries or rent. He never had to worry about anything or anyone but himself. Trust me, America. If you think you're tired of Donald Trump, talk to a New Yorker. We've had to deal with him for 78 long years. The fraud, the tax dodging, the sham university, the shady charities. We've seen him stiff contractors, rip off workers. He abuses women, brags about it, and then takes away their rights. And New Yorkers are sick of it. It's no wonder he had to flee to Mar-a-Lago. Sorry about that, Florida. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Great speaker, that Kathy Hochul. She's right up there with Dana Bash.
Yeah, she's something, man. She's firing people up.
And all that, of course, not only, number one, insulting to Donald Trump, a lot of it, again, taken away out of context. And forget about all of the wealth that Donald Trump created in New York with the building of all of the real estate there, with the building of all of those high skyscrapers and the people that he employed and so forth. Then, of course, you had Bill Clinton.
Do you want to build a strong economy from the bottom up and the middle out? Or do you want to spend the next 4 years talking about crowd size?
So, of course, the double entendres of the Democrats are never ending. Here's more from Bill Clinton.
Donald Trump has been a paragon of consistency. He's still dividing. He's still blaming. He's still belittling other people. He creates chaos, and then he sort of curates it.
And you know what's interesting, too, is that, you know, they're talking about how Donald Trump belittles people. Really?
Yeah, and Bill sounds like he could be describing himself.
Yes, and the entire Democrat Party, because that is all they've been doing for the past 3 nights, is just belittling Donald Trump.
Boy, and Bill sounds like the dirty old grandpa, you know?
Well, if the voice fits.
I'll tell you.
Very anticlimactic.
Yes.
That's what some people are saying about the entire DNC thus far. They're firing up their base, of course, and it's easy to do when they have such hatred for Donald Trump, and I understand that. But has anybody within the DNC, if you've been watching this whole thing, have they come up with anything that is policy related versus just this constant stream of platitudes and insults?
Yeah, Little John was the most exciting thing so far.
Yeah, exactly right.
Little John.
So they've been the rapper.
Yeah,
so
rapper Lil Jon.
They've been bashing his wealth, calling Donald Trump a convicted felon, on which that whole trial is obviously politically motivated. Trump is on the campaign trail, and he asked what I thought was an important question. Should he still stick to policy? Now, let's be honest. He hasn't really been sticking to policy. He's been sort of diverting. However, by and large, with the exception of the occasional comment here and there, he has been sticking to policy. The media and the Democrats will pick up on the moments when he doesn't. But this has been, of course, the great debate that has been going on among conservatives. Now, I just played for you a few. I mean, that total audio that I played, probably no more than a minute. Realize for the past 3 nights, it has been nothing but bashing Donald Trump. Nothing specific about what the Democrats are going to do for the American people if Kamala Harris, God forbid, wins. No, it's all been bashing Donald Trump. politically and also, as you heard, personally. And so Trump is on the campaign trail.
I try and be nice to people, but it's a little tough when they get personal. Please, again, remember, please, sir, don't get personal. Talk about policy. Let me ask you about that. We're going to do a free poll. Here's the two questions. Should I get personal? Should I not get personal? Ready? Should I get personal? Should I not get personal? I don't know. My advisors are fired.
That is Donald Trump. Again, remember, the Obamas did nothing but bash Donald Trump. I didn't even pull in any audio from Michelle Obama. But then Donald Trump did say that he will actually stick to policy.
I think he's killing it this week, man.
I think he's been outstanding this week.
He's talking policy.
He is. He had a great, and I've got some audio on this. I'll probably be able to get it in the 7 o'clock hour. But he went on this whole thing about rebuilding the military because our military is in big trouble. I mean, we've had this erosion of people wanting to be in the military for a long time. And Trump, while you have the Democrats doing nothing but bloviating and belittling and bashing Donald Trump, you've got the former president out there talking policy. And it's not just, we're going to rebuild the middle class. And I would say to the Democrats, rebuild the middle class from what?
And how?
From the last 3.5 years of Joe Biden. I mean, and you're right, Ken, and how? They don't really have any plans. They're going to allow the Trump tax cuts to expire. So how is that going to exactly rebuild the middle class and help the folks on the lower end of the income scale as well? How is that going to help them? Taking away the Trump tax cuts, because the reality is, if you look at the numbers, both of those categories of people financially have been helped by the Trump tax cuts. And now they're going to take it away. Why? Because they don't like Donald Trump. 6:15, time to check the roads on WTN. Thank you very much. Still 6:15 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And by the way, the question that I have for you, friends, listeners to Nashville's Morning News, is you heard Donald Trump do that little poll at his rally because you got all these folks saying, and I know that we've done this before. I want to know where you stand right now. You want Donald Trump, as he said? Do you want him to stick to policy, or do you want him to respond in kind to the belittling and the bashing of the Democrats that we've seen over the past 3 nights? And of course, that's going to continue on tonight. One of the things Donald Trump said, CNN is actually reporting on this, believe it or not, Dems mentioning me more than the border and the economy. And he's absolutely right. Everything that I've seen from online, from what I was able to watch this morning, all I see, again, are platitudes where the Democrats are saying we're going to, rebuild the middle class and rebuild the economy from the bottom up and middle out and all that stuff. But nobody has any real plans other than, turning our economy into, communism by government price controls. And you'll notice nobody's talking about that. Are they? Have you heard of them talking about Kamala Harris and her government price controls? No. You know why? Because that was a complete and utter disaster. So yes, Donald Trump is right. It is hard to stick to policy when all they do is attack. But see, here's the rub. They attack personally because they have no policy to speak of. That goes with what Donald Trump was saying yesterday, where they're attacking him and they're talking about him more than they're talking about policy. Kamala Harris still, this morning, does not have any policy proposals on her website. The only policy that we know of, giving $25,000 to some first-time home buyers courtesy of all taxpayers, which, as I said from the morning we learned about it, bad idea. Because this is going to raise the cost of houses for everyone, and it is simply not fair. Government price controls, as I just mentioned. That's communism, and it'll simply lead to shortages. And, of course, no tax on tips, which was a Donald Trump policy for a couple of months, and then she basically stole it. That's all we know about the policy of Kamala Harris. Two that are patently bad, and one that was a ripoff of Donald Trump. So tonight's speech by Kamala Harris, it's got to be critical. It's going to be critical because she either has to come out and answer some of these very important policy questions, because if all she does is bash Donald Trump after the last 3 days of Trump bashing, it will be proof positive that, simply put, the Democrats have no ideas. Tim Walz, of course, he accepted the nomination to be the running mate for Kamala Harris. This is what he had to say.
Leaders don't spend all day insulting people and blaming others. Leaders do the work.
Kind of funny because, again, that's what they've been doing since Kamala Harris came into the race, was insulting Donald Trump. So you see, I could do this all day long. Play the audio bites of the Democrats saying, well, all Donald Trump does is bash people, when they're the ones that are doing nothing but bashing people. Meantime, Donald Trump is out there and he is talking about policy. For example,
she's the greatest flip-flopper in history. She's going to ban fracking in Pennsylvania, but now she says she isn't, but she will 100%.
Policy.
She's going to do all of these things that are going to destroy our country, but she's flip-flopped on virtually every single thing she said and lived with for a whole life.
Policy.
Long before her political life. So she's going to go back to him, and our country will be destroyed. Even if she doesn't, our country will be literally destroyed by her ideology.
Yeah, I mean, she is flip-flopped because when Donald Trump is talking about Kamala Harris flip-flopping, it sounds like an insult. It's actually an adjective, because that is what she has done. She's flip-flopped on fracking. She's flip-flopped on the border. She's lied about the border. She's flip-flopped on single-payer. And her resume, of course, is tied to Joe Biden. Yesterday, he tied her appropriately enough to the disastrous pullout of Afghanistan. I know you've heard this before. You're going to hear it a lot more.
But the voters will hold Kamala and Joe accountable for this November when I take office, and they're going to be held accountable for what they've done to this country. I will ask for the resignations of every single senior military official who touched the Afghanistan disaster.
That is policy.
Want their resignations immediately.
I love that because he is talking about policy. You see, this is the thing, and we've always said this, and that is when you don't have policy on your side, then you lie and you create, the monster in Americans' minds that is Donald Trump. Although right now, Trump has been laser focused by and large on policy. Then, of course, you had Bill Clinton at 78 years old.
And the only personal vanity I want to assert is I'm still younger than Donald Trump.
Wow. And, all right, Bill. And the crowd goes crazy.
Yeah, boy.
Completely ignoring the fact that Joe Biden is still their president for now at 81, 82 years old.
I keep forgetting that, and the minute I remember it, my stomach starts hurting.
Well, the crazy thing is
stress.
The crazy thing is that you've got Donald Trump, who, he sounds a lot more passionate. He sounds a lot more together. He sounds a lot more alive than Bill Clinton does. Bill, you might be, I think, what did he say? That he's younger than Donald Trump? Well, Donald Trump sounds a heck of a lot younger than you do, Bill. That's number one. And number two, Donald Trump is a heck of a lot more relevant than you are today, especially within your own party. How relevant is Bill Clinton to the Democrat Party right now and the base of the Democrat Party? Let's be honest. He's not. He's far too moderate to the crazed lunatic left these days.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump is far more relevant to his party, the Republican Party, than Bill Clinton is to the Democrats. And that tells you where these two parties are. And you can say that Donald Trump is, a radical or whatever it is that they want to say about Donald Trump, or they try to hang whatever title on him. An extremist is another one. But the reality is that when you look at the policies, more people agree in this country, by and large, with Donald Trump than they do with Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. And that is a fact. 622, Ken Weaver, what's coming up in the news?
Well, we have all the campaign stuff. Tonight will be the last night for the Democratic National Convention, but we're going to play some more of what former President Trump is saying about policy on the campaign trail. TDOT's still working to figure out pricing on these choice lanes. We'll tell you about speeds, too. And a new indicator of an early death for Americans coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
629, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7, 7429. Of course, Donald Trump sounds more alive than Bill Clinton. Look who Bill Clinton has been married to all these years. 629.
Sucked the life right out of him.
She's like a vampire. Anyway, moving on. 629 on Nashville's Morning News. You gotta love Window Nation. My new windows look incredible. Yesterday, Window Nation came out to the house and they put my new windows finally in my upstairs bedroom and my kitchen. Amy loves them. I love them as well. They look great. Window Nation. Now, this is a company. They've now put a total of, I think, 4 or 5 windows in my home, and they're great windows. They look great, and they're energy efficient, and yes, they can save you money as well. The financial benefits of installing new windows can be huge. If you have old and inefficient windows like I did, and the AC is blasting all that cool air, it does escape, and that drives up your energy bills. You can save money with energy-efficient windows from Window Nation. And right now, you can buy 2 windows, get 2 free from Window Nation. Plus, also, right now, they have 0% financing for 2 years. That also includes no down payment, no interest, and no payments for 2 full years. So many ways to save with my company, Window Nation. Come on out and check out their options at windownation.com. That's windownation.com, 866-90-NATION, windownation.com.
6:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes and election 2024. Kamala Harris formally accepts the presidential nomination at the Democrat National Convention tonight. It was her running mate Tim Walz's turn in the spotlight last night.
It's the honor of my life to accept your nomination for Vice President of the United States.
Meanwhile, the Republican ticket keeps pounding away on the campaign trail.
It's hard. Appearing behind bulletproof glass at his first outdoor rally since the attempt on his life, Donald Trump told a North Carolina crowd it's tough for him to stay focused on the issues.
You know, they always say, sure, please stick to policy, don't get personal. And yet they're getting personal all night long, these people.
Trump said this in response to former President Barack Obama.
He was very nasty last night. I try and be nice to people, you know.
Trump went on to call his opponent Kamala Harris a Marxist.
Independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. appears ready to call it quits, and Kennedy's team is teasing a speech where he will address the nation on Friday from Phoenix, Arizona, not far from a Trump event. Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 says TDOT is still working to figure out pricing and the minimum speed for those choice lanes they're going to install to let drivers avoid heavy traffic. Drivers still trying to figure them out, too.
It almost seems kind of like almost like a privilege kind of thing, almost like a pay-to-play kind of deal. And for me, like where I just stand, like as of right now with the information I have, I don't feel like that's a good way to handle traffic.
Well, it possibly can't hurt, but I don't know whether it'll help or not.
One model TDOT is looking at would charge drivers up to $1.50 to use those lanes, which could typically operate around 45 miles per hour. Feeling a little creaky? A new study says that may be reason for concern. New research finds people with stiff joints are at a significantly higher risk of early death, much more for women, by 300%. The study links healthy blood pressure and blood vessels with healthy joints. The study is in the Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and Science in Sports. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Thank you, Ken. 6:33 on WTN. And listen, we have an unpredictable election coming up. Everybody knows that. We've got China, Russia, North Korea, predictably unpredictable. And who knows what's going to happen after November? Well, here's the deal. No matter what happens, you need to be ready for any emergency that might come your way, whether it's political, Mother Nature, whatever. You need emergency food from My Patriot Supply. You can get all of this at preparewithmandis.com. Now, right now, their mega 3-month emergency food kit comes with 33 varieties of delicious and filling foods. And right now, a great deal. You go to preparewithmandis.com. You're going to save $300 on your mega 3-month emergency food kit. It's going to ship fast and free. Be prepared with emergency food at preparewithmandis.com, and you're going to get that $300 off your mega 3-month emergency food kit. You've got 9 different fruits, vegetables, and snacks, plus all those meals as well. Check it out at preparewithmandis.com. You're going to save that $300 on your Mega 3-month emergency food kit. That's preparewithmandis.com. Protect your family and be ready with My Patriot Supply. Preparewithmandis.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on into Nashville's morning news. Donald Trump saying this yesterday about the jobs report, where the allegation is that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the administration, trying to manipulate the market numbers or the job numbers, and somehow 818,000 jobs just vanished.
And it really isn't a revision. It's a total lie. Total lie. There's never been any revision like this. They wanted it to come out after the election, but somehow it got leaked. It got leaked. Government leaks too.
That was former President Donald Trump. EJ Antoni is joining us live on the Newsmaker Hotline, a financial analyst. You've seen him on Fox Business, currently with the Heritage Foundation financial analyst. So I got to ask you, EJ, a couple of things right off the bat. Was this actually leaked, or was this a revised report that was just released in the middle of the DNC?
Well, this was a scheduled release set long before they picked the dates for the DNC. But I think what the president might be referring to here is the fact that there was some kind of problem at the Bureau of Labor Statistics where it didn't actually get released on time. However, several major Wall Street banks were able to contact the Bureau of Labor Statistics and get the information over the phone, which is a total breach of protocol. The fact that several of those big makers and shakers had access to the information when the rest of the market didn't.
That's fascinating. All right. Well, I mean, moving on from that, U.S. economy, 818,000 fewer jobs from April 2023 through March of this year. And so this means that, of course, Joe Biden's unemployment rate is not nearly as good as he has been bragging. They haven't created the jobs and so on and so forth. How does this happen? Like, Trump says that the current president, Joe Biden, padding the numbers. Was this a mistake? Was this intentional? What do you think is going on here?
Well, it's really interesting, Dan. First of all, there's no evidence whatsoever that anything is being actively done to cook the books. However, there is plenty of evidence going all the way back to the spring of 2022, so over 2 years ago now, that there were problems with the statistical models being used at BLS, at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And the fact that they have done nothing to correct it, that, I think, is where the scandal is, quite frankly. The Labor Department has to be aware that there have been problems. And again, they have done nothing to fix it. For month after month, we keep getting these blockbuster jobs reports that are only then later revised down. And that's why this is such a big deal. Not only is it a downward revision in this annual benchmark of over 800,000, but that's on top of those 12 months already having been revised down. So if you combine the previous revisions with these new ones, you're talking about losing 1.2 million jobs over a 12-month period. In other words, over a third of all the jobs we supposedly added never existed.
Well, and the other thing to think about, EJ, is that Joe Biden has constantly said that when he came into office, he was able to create, all of these jobs coming out of COVID, but those were bounce back jobs. Those were jobs, as Donald Trump has said, and we've all said, that those were jobs that were simply coming back after COVID shut them down. So it's like the entire job creation narrative that Joe Biden has had, it seems to be crashing right in the middle of the DNC.
Dan, I think that's a very fair assessment. And it's remarkable. It's frankly very remarkable how they can call it job growth when they make it illegal for you to go to work one day and then they kindly permit you to go back to work the next, and they somehow count that as a job created. Give me a break. And I think it's really interesting that this is the second biggest of these downward revisions that we've ever had on the annual benchmark. The only time that was bigger was back in 2009. And the reason that one was so significant was because essentially the labor market was deteriorating so quickly as the economy bottomed out in the Great Recession that BLS had difficulty keeping up with current economic conditions, and their models and their methodologies no longer made sense in that environment. So a model, for example, that made perfect sense in 2005 didn't make any sense in 2009. And so they grossly overestimated jobs numbers. Today, they have assumptions built in that made sense back in 2019, let's say, but now 5 years later in a post-pandemic world make no sense at all, but they're still using them, hence the ridiculous overcounting of jobs.
EJ Antoni is with the Heritage Foundation financial analyst. I got a question about the models coming up next, EJ, because you said something a few minutes ago that I do want to follow up on. It is 6:45. We'll do that after we check the roads on WTN. Thank you very much. It's 6:45, partly cloudy today, and a high of 87, 59 now at WTN. EJ Antoni is joining us, our financial analyst here on WTN and Nashville's Morning News. So, EJ, you said that the modeling, how they count these supposedly created jobs, has been effectively busted for quite some time. You said something about the modeling and things that are built into the modeling. I don't understand this stuff. But when did these issues with the modeling come up? I don't remember these kinds of wide. Help me, EJ. What are they saying? The corrections. I don't remember these wide corrections under Donald Trump. It only seems to be something that is happening with Joe Biden.
Well, in the post-pandemic world, the economy really has changed pretty dramatically in some ways, and so. Again, assumptions that you made before that made perfect sense just don't hold true anymore. And if you continue operating under those assumptions, well, now it's garbage in, garbage out. Right. I'll give you what I think is a very good example. The BLS is constantly trying to estimate how many jobs are being created or lost when new firms are created or firms go out of business. And what happens is you need to know essentially how many firms are being created, how many firms are being lost, and you need to have some kind of sense of when that happens, what is the effect on the jobs market. That's something called the birth-death model. That has literally accounted for half of all the job gains this year. Well, that model is worth absolutely nothing these days because, again, in a post-pandemic world, the number of firms that are being created after a business application has been started is very, very low. In other words, startups are much less successful today, and even the firms that are successful, that do get off the ground, are employing far fewer people than they used to. So that's just one model. It's just one example of how the BLS continues to, again, grossly overstate jobs. And the reason I say that there's something scandalous here is because we knew back in the spring of 2022 there was a problem. And the fact that it has gone on for more than 2 years now, and it continues to be a problem. It wasn't just a speed bump. It wasn't just a blip on the radar. It continues to be a problem, and the Labor Department is doing nothing to fix it. That's why we continue to get garbage numbers.
Well, it's like the crime stats. I mean, the Democrats will say that, crime is down, but the reality is that the Biden administration changed the way that those stats are reported, and it is such an albatross. It's so difficult to report these numbers that these big blue cities just gave up. That's why the numbers look down. It's not because crime is actually going down. It's because these big blue cities and other places, it's too problematic to report those numbers. And so I guess at the end of the day, given the fact that these 818,000 jobs that Biden supposedly created, they have just evaporated in this correction. Ultimately, now what that means is that as far as Donald Trump goes, his unemployment rate, because you got to discount the last 2 years of Trump's administration because of COVID. So when you look at Trump's first 2 years before COVID, his unemployment rate was 3.5%. This means that Joe Biden's unemployment rate is 4.3%. End of the day, it looks like Donald Trump's, if you're fair, it looks like Donald Trump's unemployment rate is better those first 2 years before COVID than Joe Biden's 3.5 years in.
Well, the unemployment rate is a really tricky thing, Dan, and people need to understand the fact that it's a rate. In other words, it's a fraction. There's a numerator and a denominator. You have the top and the bottom there. And if you change either of those, you're going to change the overall number. And there are literally times when a higher unemployment rate is actually a sign of prosperity. And essentially that can happen when you have times like a booming economy where there's a huge increase in the demand for work, and people who were previously sitting on the sidelines, not in the labor market, all of a sudden decide, wow, this is a really good time for me to go out and get a job. Pay is increasing, et cetera. And so they do that. And when they initially go out and look for a job, it adds to the number of people in the labor market who don't have a job and are looking for one, AKA they're unemployed. And so it can actually increase that unemployment rate. Now, obviously, it's going to come down over time. But what we've seen today is exactly the opposite. We have literally millions of Americans who left the labor force during COVID and never returned. Now, they don't have jobs today, but because they're not in the labor market, they're not counted as unemployed. So if we actually account for all of those missing Americans, there's a few different ways to do that, then you get an unemployment rate not of 4 point something percent, but somewhere between about 6.6 and 8.2%. Now, that's not horrific. That's not the Great Depression, but it is certainly well into recession territory.
Interesting. All right. Well, I wish we had more time with you. EJ and Tony, how can people find you on Twitter?
The handle there is @RealEJAndTony.
All right. Thank you very much. Looking forward to speaking to you again. It is 6:51 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here. Busy Bee HVAC. They're always looking for ways to save you money. And right now, they've got a great back-to-school special. You buy a new high-efficiency HVAC unit, you're going to register to win the Healthy Hive giveaway, which is a $2,000 sponsorship to a local school of the winner's choice. Now, remember, they do plumbing as well. It is Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. And right now, you get $500 off of a tankless water heater conversion. Also, $500 off a home drain repipe, and a whole lot more. And by the way, when you become a Beehive member from Busy Bee, you also get a free membership for a teacher, coach, or a faculty member. So call them. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. Again, Busy Bee, looking out for you, your pocketbook, and our community. 615-775-7833. 615-775-7833. You can find them online. It's busybeehvac.com. They are your Rude Pro partner. 6:52, Ken Weaver, what's coming up in the news?
Well, Democrats celebrate in Chicago while Republicans are pounding the campaign trail. Hear what former President Trump said yesterday. Nashvillians speaking out on these new ways to slow down drivers, including speed cushions. We'll tell you about that, and a new indicator of an early death. Coming up at 7 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionality, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com. .655 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Apparently, there were maggots that were put in the food at the DNC breakfast.
Well, times are tough. You got to put whatever you can on there.
Sure, Johnny. You want to say what you said off the air? Or you want me to throw down that line?
Sure, the maggots I thought were on stage.
Johnny B, everybody. You know, this is what those,
Johnny B.
This is what those pro-Hamas protesters do, is they have been, remember when they had, who was it? The Republicans were, no, it was Benjamin Netanyahu was in Washington, D.C. They put maggots and roaches and all that around the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
I should say the hotel where Netanyahu was staying. By the way, Taylor Swift, apparently her tour ended, I think, last night or the night before.
What a coinkadink.
So, I don't know, man. Somebody might want to start tracking Taylor Swift's plane in a safe way and see if she's headed to Chicago.
How do we do that?
You know, there's some 12-year-old somewhere that knows how to do that, and he's been tracking her. If Taylor Swift wanted to be funny, she would send her plane to Chicago, even if she's not going, and she'd take her, her other plane. I'm sure she's got multiple, to wherever it is that she wants to do, just to like troll the, people that are paranoid that she is going to support Kamala Harris. I think that'd be really funny, actually. Is she going to support Kamala Harris? I believe that she is going to support Kamala Harris. 6:57 on WTN.
7 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Temperature changes on the way. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And election 2024. Kamala Harris formally accepts presidential nomination at the Democratic National Convention tonight. Last night was her running mate Tim Walz's turn in the spotlight.
And a thank you to President Joe Biden for 4 years of strong, historic leadership.
Meanwhile, the Republican ticket keeps pounding away on the campaign trail.
Donald Trump holding his first outdoor event since the attempt on his life in Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much, everybody.
The former president speaking to supporters from behind bulletproof glass, surrounded by counter snipers.
He was taking shots at your president.
Trump carped about former President Obama after he delivered a takedown at the DNC.
And so was Michelle. I try and be nice to people, you know? But it's a little tough when they get personal.
Trump also discussed national security.
That's Andrew Dembert reporting. By the way, independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. appears ready to call it quits. Kennedy's team's teasing a speech where he will address the nation on Friday from